Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
What is up, and welcome into another very special off-season edition. We are the One and Done Show. We are your fast break of college basketball information. I am the host of your show. You can catch me on Twitter at FantasyNav. He is Mr. Mike Holland. He is the captain of our ship, and he is the arbiter of our big board. Mike, how's it going tonight? What's the latest with the transfer portal?
It's going good, man. It's hot down here. I think you know that all too well. And it's been a fun May, right? We've had tons of news in the transfer portal, just another big offseason here for college basketball. But the good thing is the rosters are finally taking shape here. I think only 16 guys left on our top 100 left to make decisions here. So, some guys making decisions to stay in the NBA draft. So we're really starting to take shape here as we head into June. We should hopefully be a little bit slower as, we kind of pull these guys down off our board here and really start to look at, everything conference by conference, outlooks on this. I'm excited to kind of move towards that. But for me, it's just been another exciting offseason. Glad to talk about it here. And, we took a little bit of West Coast hoops on the last couple of shows that we did, but we haven't really dove in, which is why I'm super excited tonight. So with that, I'd like to introduce our guest tonight to talk some UCLA Bruins hoops. Let's welcome Los Angeles Times beat writer Ben Bolch to the One and Done Show. Ben, how are you doing tonight?
Excellent. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Absolutely, Ben. We definitely appreciate you making some time for us, and we're definitely excited to take a little bit of a spin on the West Coast here, specifically for these Bruins that you cover. I mean, they've really been on a meteoric rise to national prominence. Now we've got Coach Mike Cronin, who's improved this team's record each of the first 3 seasons. He's got a Sweet 16 and a Final Four under his belt. So my first question to you is, what, if anything, can Coach Cronin attribute his quick start to at UCLA, and how will he respond to growing expectations in the county?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. I think it's a culture shift toward his style of just hard-nosed basketball, defense first, everybody being on the same page. And then player development's been huge. He's been really, really good at getting the best out of players that he largely didn't recruit. I mean, let's remember the core of this team: Jaime Jaquez, Tiger Campbell, Jules Bernard, those kind of guys. They were brought in by Steve Alford. So Mick Cronin's done an amazing job of taking what he's been given and doing a great job with it. And now, as more of his recruiting classes come in, it'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out. Even next year, in year 4, he's still going to have a core of guys that he didn't recruit in Jaime Jaquez, Tiger Campbell, and probably Jules Bernard. So just a great job, a great start for Mick Cronin. And if you're a UCLA fan, you got to be super excited about not only the immediate future, but the long-term outlook.
Absolutely. He's done a phenomenal job in the first, obviously couple of seasons here. So for me, looking at this roster coming back, right, obviously we've got Johnny Juzang and Peyton Watson are off to the draft. Jules Bernard, you kind of hit on it. Looks like he's leaning towards coming back, but still going through the process. So for me, how big of it is to get 2 veteran players, like someone like a Tiger Campbell, someone like a Jaime Jaquez, back on this team? And then how much of a blow here is it if you lose Bernard, and how much of a gain would it be if he's coming back for another season?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, you've got kind of the tone setters with Jaime and Tiger coming back, but Jules is a big piece as well. He's kind of the calling card, I think, for player development under Mick Cronin. He's come such a long way from when he was a freshman. He was known for kind of, we called it the drives to nowhere, where he thought he could just take anybody one-on-one, and half the time he would either make a turnover or throw up just a wild shot. But he's really come into his own, and probably one of the top 10 underrated guys in the country, I would say. And definitely, going into next year, if he comes back, he would still not be quite as under the radar, because he did really well at the G League pre-draft camp, really balled out there. So I think that was big for him. But yeah, it'll be big. I think everybody's going to, lobby for him to come back so that they can have those 3 returning starters. That'll be complemented by some really talented, exciting freshmen coming in. That's going to make it a really interesting mix of players next year for the Bruins.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case, and you teed up my next question perfectly. Looking over the landscape of college basketball, UCLA hasn't quite been as active as some of the other programs across the country, but they're retaining a lot of their roster, and they have a really star-studded incoming recruiting class. It's 11 overall, according to 24/7 Sports. So, can you talk a little bit more about the impact of guys like Amari Bailey, Adam Boda, and how these incoming 5-star prospects are going to play a role in the year to come?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what both of those guys are going to do. And let's not forget, Dylan Andrews is going to be probably the first true point guard backup for Tiger Campbell. And that's something that they haven't had since he arrived. So that's going to be big as well. But Adem Bona, you can pretty much pencil him in as a starter probably from day one, just because of Cody Riley and Miles Johnson leaving a huge hole in the interior that needs to be filled immediately. And then Amari Bailey, one of the top players in the country, combo guard, can shoot, can pass, should be a real dynamic presence from day one. So, yeah, a lot to like there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of Amari Bailey, just watching his highlights, man. I can't wait to see him play next year. So, looking at the Pac-12 as a whole, there hasn't been as much love, it feels like, in the last few years for the West Coast. You look at a lot of the pre-rankings right now. You've got UCLA looking like a top 10 team, but really only Arizona and USC are kind of getting love for the top 25. For me personally, I kind of like what Oregon and Arizona State are doing, but it just seems every year West Coast basketball is super underrated. So really just wanted to get your thoughts on the conference. Do you see any major threats to UCLA at the top this year?
Well, there's always a surprise or two. Oregon's going to get better as the season goes on with their usual influx of transfers. I think SC will still be very good. But it is interesting to note that a lot of Pac-12 players have transferred to mid-majors. That's kind of been the story of the offseason for me. And I know you, as somebody who tracks transfers closely, they've had guys go to places like Nevada and Wyoming and I believe some other WCC schools. So that's been something I think that the Pac-12 really has to look at and say, why is this happening? What do we need to do about it? Because I think it is really concerning for the conference that, let's face it, didn't have a great showing in the NCAA tournament. So there's got to be some examination of what exactly is going on here.
Yeah, it's a fair point. If nothing else, leaves a lot of room for UCLA up at the top, but definitely want to see a strong Pac-12 overall. For my next question, I want to zoom out a little bit. We are in an entirely different landscape in college basketball with the rise of the transfer portal, with NIL now being an option. So we've seen some pretty interesting deals and heard some rumors of some pretty big dollar amounts out there. How is UCLA handling or approaching NIL? And have you seen any advantages to being in the LA media market for this team?
Well, I think there's definitely built-in advantages when you talk about, having a lot of the agencies here like Wasserman. Jaime Jaquez already has a deal with them. And then just all the, businesses that are here and Hollywood and all those types of things. But I think as an institution, UCLA is kind of taken a conservative approach, which I find interesting because I think a lot of people think they've been left behind a little bit, by the Miamis of the world and some of these other schools that are doing just really outrageous things. So I'll be really interested to see that going forward. I know that Mick Cronin's told me that he's in favor of everything that, his players can get that's above board and sanctioned by the NCAA. But the big problem is we don't know what that is, right? I mean, it's like it's so nebulous. And even now with this new guidance, it's still like the wild, wild west out there. So it really is kind of a wide open landscape. But UCLA is really well positioned to really dominate, I think, on a much higher level than they have so far. So I think, maybe we'll start to see that. Jaime Jaquez told me he's got some deals in the works with his sister, Gabriella, who's going to be on the women's team next year, which is going to be interesting because it's going to be the first brother-sister combo at UCLA since Ann and Dave Myers, and both of them won national championships. So they got some big shoes to fill, but it's going to be a lot of fun to watch to see what they can do. And I know some NIL companies are definitely already capitalizing that, and it's going to be an even bigger thing as we move forward.
Yeah, it's definitely the wild, wild west out there. Just trying to cover this stuff is pretty interesting. But we haven't reached June yet, but we have to ask: is this the year of the Bruin? And what do you think it's going to take this year to, make another Final Four run? And what are the key things you're looking for?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I have a funny feeling that this could be a really special year for UCLA. And Mick Cronin tends to do well with he makes more with less. And I'm not saying he doesn't have a lot to work with. He has a lot to work with. But I felt like last year with Johnny Juzang and Peyton Watson and some of these other people and a lot of post depth, it was almost like an embarrassment of riches where he had to always kind of constantly press the right buttons to figure out lineup combinations. Whereas on the Final Four run, he was like, we only got, these handful of guys and we got to squeeze everything we can out of them. And we saw what he did there. And I think, this year will be a little bit closer to that. I mean, they will definitely have some depth, but I think the roster and the starters will be more evident throughout the season. So I think it's shaping up as a potentially special year. I like the combination of youth and experience and the skill sets that these guys have. And, I think that there's a good chance that this could be the year for banner number 12 that everybody's been waiting for at UCLA. God, it's been 1995. They're dying for a Rose Bowl game and another banner to put up in Poly. So it's about time they got one of them, right?
Yeah, certainly long overdue. But these Bruins definitely have the inside track to make some noise this year. Ben Bolch, everyone out there who is not already following him, you can do so on Twitter at LATB scrolling along the bottom there. You can check out all of his great work over at the LATimes.com. Nobody is more plugged into this UCLA program than Ben is. So you will not only find yourself more educated on everything happening with the Bruins, but also it's got a pretty interesting piece in the works on Josiah Johnson coming out in the next few days. So if you're not already subscribed, get over to LATimes.com. Check out all of Ben's work. You will absolutely be better for it. Ben, thank you for making some time for us and for getting us up to speed on the Bruins.
Thank you guys so much. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Ben.
Cheers. So, Mike, as we continue to move on here, been a couple of weeks since we've been live on the air, and at least for me, feels like the portal news has kind of slowed down a little bit. We're still waiting for a few guys inside of our top 10 to decide on their destination to play next year. Still plenty of guys kind of in the middle of the pack on that big board that need to make a determination as well. But maybe the biggest piece of news is in your beloved conference there for the Oklahoma Sooners, who made their decision to head up to Norman.
Yeah, I guess we got to talk a little bit of Oklahoma on this show, right? So Grant Sherfield, someone that I'm really, really high on, just a really nice combo guard from Nevada. Number 5 on our transfer board here, averaged 19 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists. Man, can just kind of do it all here. He went ahead and decided to, come back to school. He's going to make the transfer over to Oklahoma. So a really, really big get here for Coach Porter Moser. He's actually going to join our guy Joe Bamisile here. He's our number 39 ranked player. He's an athletic scoring guard as well. So just a really athletic backcourt that Oklahoma is going to be featuring here this year. So definitely going to be interested to see how these two guys kind of work together. The Big 12 is always pretty tough. You got to get tough buckets, and that's something that Sherfield can definitely do. Just puts Coach Porter Mercer in his second year in another good position here. He just missed the tourney last year. So, you bring back both Groves brothers who transferred in from Eastern Washington last year. And, Tanner, obviously kind of a beast in the middle there, just kind of figuring out the Big 12. And then you got Jacob, who had some flashes there, making some noise from the 3-point line. So, both of these guys expect to return. They're bringing in a couple of, top 100 recruits off ESPN. So, yeah, you look at it and, Oklahoma's turning in a really, really nice roster here. So what are your thoughts on the Sooners?
Yeah, more than anything, I was a bit surprised, right? Not only that Sherfield decided to return to school, right? It seemed like he was one of the more likely NBA prospects.
Oh, I think we lost you, my man. But that's probably a good thing because I don't know if anybody wants to be talking Sooners right now. So not sure if we lost our guy Eric. Not sure that he's missed it here. But, looking at it here, also something that happened here is obviously Florida continues to make noise in the SEC. you're looking at it here, they went ahead and got, a big transfer here in Kyle Lofton, averaging 12.8 points from St. Bonaventure. So just a really nice piece here coming in. He's going to join Belmont guard Will Richard, also another really nice piece here. He's number 31 on our transfer board here. So another strong backcourt here. They also earned this week an ESPN Top 100 recruit, Riley Kugel, a guard here, who's the last guy on the ESPN Top 100 that is going to be joining this team here. So just a really, really good job here by Todd Golden, as bringing in some talent here, really jump-starting this program. Obviously this program's had some success in the past, so it's just kind of nice to see the Gators here making some moves. Colin Castleton, obviously the big man, is the key for Florida here. And it looks like we got your mic back on here. He averaged 16 points a game, almost a double-double here. So just a really, really nice looking team. And then Alex Fudge too, coming from LSU, number 73 on our big board. He was a high level recruit. Just didn't get that opportunity really from, kind of riding the bench there at LSU. So interested to see what that tandem can kind of do in the front court. So now that you're back, what are your thoughts here on Florida?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out with Florida. I mean, it feels like it's kind of a logjam of guys, right? There were a few weeks during the DFS season where basically everyone from Florida was out and we were getting all of their backup guys at min price. And now they're adding even more capable names to this roster. So it's going to be curious to see how this rotation shakes out. I don't know if you have kind of a read or an estimation based on the guys coming in, who you think is going to get kind of starting minutes off the get-go, but that's the storyline that I'm watching in Florida.
Yeah, definitely a lot of options here for Coach Golden, so it's going to be interesting to follow them early in the year and just kind of see how these rotations shake out. But one thing you can count on is that Kyle Lofton's going to be out there early and often.
Hey, that rhymes. And with that, we've got one more final thought with an additional Lofton, Kenneth Lofton. He and Teddy Allen looking to stay in the NBA draft, so not going to pull a Sherfield and make their way back to the college ranks. Any other kind of closing thoughts or notes as we turn the page into June and inch closer to the start of the college basketball season?
Yeah, I think for me, obviously the NBA draft is something to look for. Obviously, watching to see which guys come in, which guys stay in is going to be pretty important, obviously, to the outlook of college basketball. But I think, as we kind of get into June, go into July, it's going to, obviously start looking at conference by conference, maybe talking some more previews, more lineups. We'll get some more news from some of these guys. I think Amani Bates wants to get his done in the middle of June. So, there's still some impact guys out there that we're going to want to talk about. But, I think overall things are starting to take shape, and we're going to kind of see what we get preview wise.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you that haven't watched our prior off-season shows, make it a point, grab a pen and paper, open up your notes app, whatever you got to do. Jot down these names, right? These guys that are transferring in from kind of middle of the pack, mid-major, smaller programs into the Power Five. They're probably going to be some of our favorite DFS plays throughout the season. So Grant Sherfield, Kyle Lofton, to name a few from tonight's episode. If you want to catch up on some of the other names that we've talked about before, make your way over to YouTube. If you're watching there now, hit that like and subscribe button. All of our previous conversations and previous shows are posted on there. And more important than anything, let's get this bread.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.